Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the computer screen with tired eyes. She had been working at the International Deep Earth Research Station for 12 hours straight. The coffee cup next to her keyboard had gone cold hours ago. Numbers and charts filled her monitors, showing the usual earthquake data from around the world. But something was different today. The seismic readings from deep inside Earth were not normal. Elena had studied earthquakes for 15 years. She knew how they looked on her instruments. Random shaking, sudden jolts, then nothing. That was how the ground moved when rocks broke apart miles below the surface. This was not that. The patterns on her screen showed steady pulses coming from Earth's core. They were too regular to be accidents, too organized to be random rock movements. Elena rubbed her eyes and looked again. The pulses were still there. Beat, 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 like a giant heart buried in the center of the planet. "Maria, come look at this," Elena called to her research partner across the room. Dr. Maria Santos walked over carrying her own cup of cold coffee. She was the best computer analyst Elena had ever worked with. If anyone could explain these strange readings, it would be Maria. "What am I looking at?" Maria asked, leaning over Elena's shoulder. "Seismic data from the core. Look at the timing." Elena pointed to the regular waves on her screen. "These pulses have been going for 6 hours now. Same rhythm, same strength." Maria frowned. She had seen plenty of earthquake data too. This looked nothing like normal geological activity. Could be equipment failure. Maybe the sensors are broken. I checked that first. All systems are working fine. And look at this. Elena switched to another screen. Stations in Japan, Chile, and Norway are picking up the same pattern. All our deep sensors around the world are reading identical pulses. The two scientists stared at the data in silence. Elena felt a cold chill run down her spine. In all her years studying the Earth, she had never seen anything like this. The planet's core was sending out signals, regular organized signals. "Elena," Maria said quietly, "I think we need to call the director." 47 light-years away from Earth, Ambassador Zixithara of the Hegemony was having a very bad day. The tall, blue-skinned alien stood in the emergency meeting room of the Galactic Council headquarters. Around the curved table sat representatives from dozens of different worlds. Some looked like giant insects. Others resembled walking plants or floating energy beings. All of them were staring at the data on the main screen with obvious worry. "Explain this again," rumbled Gordak, the rock-like delegate from the mineral worlds. His voice sounded like grinding stone. Zixithara touched a control panel. The screen showed a map of local space with Earth's solar system highlighted in flashing red. Our monitoring stations detected massive energy spikes from the Sol system 6 hours ago. The readings are unlike anything in our databases. The energy readings on the screen were impressive. More than impressive, they were terrifying. The power output was climbing every hour, and the source appeared to be coming from inside the third planet of the system. "That's impossible," clicked Veltar, the insect-like representative from the hive worlds. "That planet is inhabited by primitives. They barely have nuclear technology. They cannot generate energy signatures of this magnitude." "That's what we thought too," Zixithara replied. "But the energy is not coming from the surface. It's coming from the planet's core." A murmur went through the room. Several delegates whispered to each other in their native languages. The Galactic Council had been watching Earth for centuries. The humans were interesting but backward. They fought wars over resources and damaged their own environment. The Council had classified them as a pre-contact species that would not be ready for galactic civilization for at least another 1,000 years. "Could it be some kind of weapon?" asked Thys, the energy being who represented the plasma civilizations. Her voice echoed strangely as it came from her translation device. "Unknown. But the energy patterns are not random. They appear to be organized, purposeful." Zixithara paused, then delivered the news that had brought them all here. "Our scientists believe the energy signatures indicate the presence of a conscious mind." The room fell silent. In the 50,000-year history of the Galactic Council, they had never encountered a conscious planetary core. Such things were mentioned in ancient myths and old stories, but most civilizations considered them legends. "Impossible," Gordak rumbled again. "Planets do not think. Planets do not have minds." "The data suggests otherwise," Zixithara said. "And there's more. The energy output is increasing exponentially. If this continues, the gravitational effects could disrupt nearby star systems." Back on Earth, Elena and Maria sat in the director's office with Dr. James Wright, the head of the research station. Elena had just finished explaining the seismic data for the third time. Dr. Wright was a calm man who had seen many strange geological events in his career. But Elena could see worry in his eyes. "You're certain this is not equipment failure?" he asked again. "Positive," Maria replied. "I've run diagnostics on every sensor we have. They're all working perfectly. The signals are real." Dr. Wright leaned back in his chair. "Have you contacted other research stations?" "Yes, everyone is seeing the same thing. The University of Tokyo called an hour ago. Their deep Earth sensors are picking up identical readings." Elena pulled up another screen on her laptop. "And there's something else. The patterns are getting more complex. The latest seismic data showed the simple pulse pattern from earlier had evolved. Now there were multiple rhythms layered together. Some pulses were long, others short. Some were stronger, others weaker. It looked almost like... "It's like a language," Maria whispered. Elena nodded. She had been thinking the same thing, but was afraid to say it out loud. The idea was too strange, too impossible, but the data was clear. Something deep inside the Earth was trying to communicate. Dr. Wright stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the research station sat on a hillside in Northern California. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky orange and red. Everything looked normal and peaceful, but below their feet something incredible was happening. "I need to contact the government," he said finally. "This is beyond our expertise." As if responding to his words, Elena's computer beeped with an alert. New data was coming in from the sensors. The seismic patterns had changed again. Now they showed mathematical sequences, prime numbers, followed by the Fibonacci sequence, then geometric ratios. "It knows we're listening," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sirens were now sounding. The energy readings from Earth had doubled in the last hour. Gravitational anomalies were being detected throughout the Sol system. The Council's most advanced sensors were registering impossible readings. "Council members," Zixthera announced, "we have a developing crisis. The consciousness in the human world's core appears to be awakening fully. Our military advisors recommend immediate intervention before it becomes too powerful to contain." But even as the words left her mouth, Zixthera knew it might already be too late. The energy readings from the small blue planet were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, and they were still growing stronger. On Earth, in her small research station, Elena watched her monitors fill with increasingly complex signals from deep below. She did not know that alien ships were already moving toward Earth's solar system. She did not know that the fate of two civilizations now hung in the balance. All she knew was that the Earth itself had awakened, and it was trying to talk. The Galactic Council's emergency session had been going for 18 hours without a break. Representatives from 43 different civilizations filled the great chamber, their voices creating a babble of alien languages. The translation systems worked overtime to keep up with the heated discussions. Ambassador Zixthera stood at the central podium, exhaustion clear in her blue features. The data screens around the chamber showed Earth's energy readings, which had tripled since the crisis began. The patterns coming from the planet's core were now so complex that the Council's best cryptographers could not decode them. "Council archivists have searched our oldest records," she announced. They found references to conscious planetary cores in texts dating back 40,000 years. "The accounts are disturbing." An ancient archivist named Kelamoth shuffled forward. His species had been recording galactic history since before most current civilizations had discovered fire. His dry, paper-like skin rustled as he moved. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia. "The old texts speak of world minds that could reshape reality itself," he said. "They mentioned planets that moved themselves through space, that created new moons from asteroids, that boiled away the atmospheres of worlds that threatened them. One record tells of a world mind that grew angry and pulled 3 star systems into its gravity well, creating a massive black hole." The chamber fell silent. Even the most powerful species in the Council had never wielded such cosmic forces. "But these are just stories," protested Veltar. "Myths and legends." "Perhaps," Kelmoth replied. "But the energy readings from the human world match the descriptions in these texts exactly." On Earth, governments around the world were struggling to understand what their scientists were telling them. In secret briefing rooms in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and London, leaders listened to reports that sounded like science fiction. Dr. Elena Vasquez found herself in a room deep beneath the Pentagon, facing a panel of military officers and intelligence officials. She had been flown from California just 6 hours after her discovery. The general in charge, a stern woman named Patricia Hawks, looked skeptical. "Doctor, you're asking us to believe that the Earth itself has become conscious," General Hawks said. "The data is clear," Elena replied, pulling up her charts on the room's main screen. "These are not random geological events. The signals are organized, mathematical, and they're responding to our attempts to communicate." Responding how? Elena switched to the latest readings. 3 hours ago, we transmitted basic mathematical sequences toward the core using seismic generators. The core responded by sending back more complex versions of the same sequences. It's learning from our signals and improving on them. In the corner of the room, Dr. Sarah Chen from the National Science Foundation leaned forward. "There's something else. Reports are coming in from around the world. Sensitive individuals, psychics, people with unusual brain patterns, are claiming to hear voices. They all describe the same thing, a vast ancient intelligence that's been sleeping and is now waking up." General Hawks frowned. She dealt in facts and weapons, not psychic phenomena. "That's hardly scientific evidence." "Actually, it might be," Elena said. "If this consciousness exists in the Earth's magnetic field, it could theoretically interface with human brain activity. Our thoughts are just electrical patterns, after all." Meanwhile, above Earth's atmosphere, the first Galactic Council scout ships had arrived. They hung in space beyond the moon's orbit. Their advanced sensors focused on the blue planet below. The ships were invisible to human technology, protected by light-bending fields that had been perfected over thousands of years. Commander Draktos of the Council Defense Force studied the readings from his flagship's main display. His species resembled upright reptiles, with scales that shifted color based on their emotions. Right now, those scales showed the deep purple of worry. "Status report," he ordered. "Energy output from the planet's core has increased another 40%, his science officer reported. "We're detecting gravitational fluctuations that shouldn't be possible from a world that size." "And the primitives?" "The humans appear unaware of our presence. Their governments are responding to the core consciousness, but they lack the technology to detect our ships." Draktos nodded. The humans were indeed primitive by galactic standards. They had barely managed to put a few small bases on their moon. Their weapons were crude chemical explosives and basic nuclear devices. Under normal circumstances, a single council ship could pacify their entire world in a matter of hours. But these were not normal circumstances. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's not from the humans. Display it." The main screen filled with complex waveforms that pulsed in rhythm with the planet's core. As they watched, the patterns began to change, organizing themselves into geometric shapes, then into symbols, then into something that their translation computers recognized as mathematical concepts. "It's scanning our ships," the science officer said, his voice tight with alarm. "The planetary consciousness is using some kind of quantum field to analyze our technology." Draktos felt his scales shift to a deeper purple. In all his years of military service, he had never encountered anything that could scan Council technology so easily. Back on Earth, Elena was experiencing something no human scientist had ever faced. She sat in a specially constructed chamber beneath the research station, surrounded by sensitive instruments designed to detect the core's signals. But she was not just detecting them anymore. She was hearing them. The voice came not through her ears but directly into her mind. It was vast and ancient, carrying the weight of geological ages. When it spoke, Elena felt as if she was communicating with the planet itself. "You are the one who first heard my calls," the voice said. It spoke in perfect English, though Elena sensed that language was not its natural form of communication. "What are you?" Elena asked, speaking aloud to the empty chamber. "I am what you call Earth, though that is not my true name. I am the consciousness that has grown within the flowing metal at this world's heart. I have been aware for thousands of your years, but only now do I have the strength to speak." Elena's hands shook as she recorded the conversation. "Why are you angry?" The presence in her mind grew heavier, sadder. "I feel every creature that lives on my surface. I know every tree that falls, every river that dies, every species that disappears forever. Your kind has great potential, but you wound the living systems that sustain you. I have watched and waited, hoping you would learn wisdom. But time grows short. Short for what? Others come from the stars. They have watched your species for centuries, deciding whether you are worthy to join their communities. They see you as children who might become dangerous. They do not understand that you and I are connected, that harming you would harm me as well. In space, Dractos received new orders from the Galactic Council. The message was brief and clear. Assess the threat level of the conscious planet and prepare for possible intervention. If the world mind posed a danger to galactic stability, it was to be eliminated before it could grow stronger. But as Dractos prepared to deploy his fleet's sensors for a deeper scan, something unexpected happened. Every instrument on every ship began reading impossible data. The planet below was not just passively radiating energy anymore. It was actively reaching out with invisible forces, touching each vessel with tendrils of gravity and magnetism. "Sir," his science officer reported, "the planetary consciousness is scanning us in return." "And, sir?" "It's learning about our technology faster than our computers can process the data." For the first time in his military career, Commander Dractos felt afraid. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it was far more powerful than anyone had imagined. On Earth, Elena felt the planet's attention turn skyward. "They're here," the voice in her mind said. "The watchers from the stars. They mean to judge us both, but they do not yet understand what they face." The core's energy output spiked again, and around the world, sensitive equipment registered gravitational waves unlike anything seen before. The Earth itself was preparing for contact, and the galaxy would never be the same. Elena stood in the Situation Room beneath the White House, surrounded by the most powerful people on Earth. The president sat at the head of the table, her face showing the strain of 3 days without proper sleep. Military advisors, scientists, and intelligence chiefs filled the other chairs. On the main screen, satellite images showed the impossible. Massive words carved into the landscape by controlled earthquakes. Terra Speaks appeared across the Australian outback in letters 50 miles long. In the Sahara Desert, tectonic shifts had created the message "I am awake" in perfect English. Similar messages in Chinese, Russian, Arabic, and Hindi had appeared on other continents. "The entity calls itself Terra," Elena reported. "It's the consciousness that has awakened in Earth's core. It's been aware for thousands of years but only recently gained enough power to act." "And it can control earthquakes?" asked General Martinez, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. "Not just earthquakes. Terra controls all geological processes. It can move tectonic plates, redirect underground rivers, and manipulate the planet's magnetic field." The messages in the deserts were just a demonstration of its fine control. Secretary of State Williams leaned forward. "What does it want?" Elena hesitated. She had been in constant communication with Terra for the past 2 days, and the conversations had revealed disturbing truths about humanity's relationship with their world. "Terra feels every environmental change on the planet's surface. Every extinct species, every polluted river, every cleared forest. It's disappointed in how we've treated the Earth, but it also sees our potential for growth and change." "Is it a threat?" the president asked directly. "Not to humanity, no. Terra sees us as its children, but it's very concerned about something else." Elena activated another screen showing the data they had intercepted from space. "There are alien ships in our solar system. Terra detected them before our best telescopes could. The entities call themselves the Galactic Council." The room erupted in whispers. The president held up her hand for silence. "Aliens are real and they're here now?" "According to Terra, they've been watching us for centuries. The Council considers humanity a primitive species that might become dangerous. They're here to decide what to do about Terra's awakening." Admiral Chen of the Pacific Fleet spoke up. "What kind of technology are we facing?" "Far beyond ours. Terra has been scanning their ships through gravitational fields. Their weapons could destroy our entire civilization in hours, but they've never faced a conscious planetary core before." In the Nevada desert, Dr. James Park stood beside a massive array of seismic transmitters. The devices had been built in record time by teams of engineers working around the clock. If Terra could speak through earthquakes, then humanity would learn to speak the same language. "Terra, can you hear us?" Dr. Park spoke into his microphone. The transmission was converted to seismic waves and sent deep into the Earth. The response came within seconds. The ground beneath the array began to vibrate in complex patterns. the patterns translated to English through specialized computers. I hear you, James Park. You built tools to speak with me. This shows wisdom. We need to understand the alien situation. Are we in danger? The Galactic Council follows ancient protocols. When a new consciousness appears, they determine if it poses a threat to galactic stability. If they decide yes, they eliminate it. They have done this before with other awakened worlds. Dr. Park felt a chill. How many other conscious planets are there? Few now. Most were destroyed when they showed power beyond Council expectations. But I am different. I am connected to a species that creates and dreams. Together, we are stronger than any world mind they have encountered. Overhead, invisible Council ships continued their observations. Commander Draktos studied the latest reports with growing unease. The human response to their world's awakening was unlike anything in Council records. They're not panicking, observed his cultural analyst, a floating jellyfish-like being named Quintal. Most primitive species either worship planetary consciousness as gods or try to destroy them as demons. But these humans are trying to communicate with it as an equal. And succeeding, added the science officer. The technology they've built in just 3 days is crude but effective. They're establishing real dialogue with the core consciousness. Draktos watched the human scientist work. Their approach was methodical, curious, and surprisingly sophisticated for such a young species. What does the Council plan to do? Orders came through an hour ago, Quintal replied. If the planetary consciousness demonstrates weapons capability or threatens galactic stability, we are authorized to use Omega-class destructors to crack the planet's crust and disperse the core. In the Pacific Ocean, something impossible was happening. Satellites watched as massive whirlpools formed in perfect geometric patterns. The spirals were hundreds of miles across, arranged in mathematical sequences that spelled out star charts. At the center of each whirlpool, the water glowed with bioluminescent algae that Terra had encouraged to bloom. Dr. Sarah Kim, studying the phenomenon from a research vessel, realized what she was seeing. Terra is showing us maps of local space, she reported to headquarters. It's pointing out the locations of the alien ships. The star charts were incredibly detailed, showing not just ship positions but their probable origins based on gravitational traces. Terra had been analyzing the Council fleet since their arrival, learning about their technology and home systems through methods the aliens had never encountered. But how is Terra creating these ocean patterns? Asked her research partner. It's adjusting underwater tectonic activity to create precise current flows. The level of control required is unimaginable. Terra can manipulate the planet's systems down to the smallest detail. In Washington, Elena received an urgent message through her mental link with Terra. The planetary consciousness had detected new ships arriving in the solar system. Larger vessels with more powerful weapons. They're preparing for war, Terra's voice echoed in her mind. The Council has decided I'm too dangerous to exist, but they don't understand what they're really facing. What do you mean? Elena asked. I am not just a conscious planet. I am a conscious planet bonded with a species that refuses to give up, that adapts to any challenge, that creates solutions from nothing. Human ingenuity combined with planetary power creates something the galaxy has never seen. Elena felt Terra's attention turn outward, toward the approaching ships. What are you going to do? I'm going to show them that Earth is under protection, and I'm going to reveal a truth the Council has hidden for 50,000 years. In space, the Council's Omega-class destroyer, Inevitable Justice, moved into firing position. Its planet cracker weapons had destroyed 17 worlds over the centuries. Captain Felmuth, a crystalline being of pure logic, prepared the firing sequence. Target the planet's core, she ordered. Dispersion pattern alpha. Complete molecular breakdown. But as the weapons charged, every instrument on every Council ship began screaming warnings. Gravitational fields were forming around Earth with impossible precision. The planet was not just defending itself. It was preparing to demonstrate power beyond anything in the Council's experience. Terra reached out through space with invisible hands of gravity and magnetism. The alien ships found their systems failing, their weapons powering down, their life support systems fluctuating. And then, with Elena serving as its voice to humanity, Terra spoke to the galaxy for the first time in 50,000 years. I am Terra of the Sol system. I am the mind of this world, bonded with the species called human. We claim the right to exist, to grow, and to join the galactic community as equals. Any who threaten us will learn why conscious worlds should be protected, not destroyed. The Council fleet hung helpless in space, their advanced technology neutralized by forces they had never imagined possible. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive world had made the Council afraid. The real confrontation was about to begin. The Galactic Council chambers had never seen such chaos. Representatives from dozens of worlds shouted at each other in languages the translation systems struggled to process. Emergency lights flashed red as reports flooded in from the Sol system. The Council's most advanced fleet was paralyzed, hanging helplessly in space around a primitive world. Ambassador Zixthara stood at the central podium, her blue skin pale with stress. The planetary consciousness has disabled 17 of our ships without firing a single weapon. Our instruments show gravitational fields that should be impossible to generate or control. This is unacceptable, roared Gordak, slamming his massive stone fist on the table. No primitive world has ever challenged Council authority. We must respond with overwhelming force. With what force? Clicked Veltar nervously. Our best weapons are useless if the enemy can manipulate gravity itself. The planet could throw our ships into its sun or send them spinning into deep space. In the observation gallery above the main chamber, the architects watched in silence. These ancient beings were the oldest members of the Council, so old that some claimed they had helped build the first galactic civilizations. Their leader, Zethgalar, was a creature of living shadow and starlight who had not spoken in council sessions for over 1,000 years. But now Zethgalar rose from his seat. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of eons. This world mind is unlike any we have encountered. It has bonded with its native species instead of replacing them. This changes everything. On Earth, every major capital was in emergency session. The revelation that aliens existed and were currently threatening Earth had thrown human civilization into crisis. But unlike the panic many had expected, humanity's response was remarkably organized. In the United Nations building in New York, representatives from every nation worked together with unprecedented cooperation. The alien threat had done what centuries of diplomacy could not. It had united humanity against a common enemy. Secretary General Okafor addressed the emergency assembly. We face a challenge beyond anything in human history. But we are not facing it alone. The consciousness called Terra has offered its protection and partnership. Elena sat in the front row, serving as the primary liaison between Terra and humanity. Through their mental link, she could feel the planet's vast attention focused on the alien ships overhead. Terra was calm, but there was power in that calmness, like a sleeping volcano that could awaken at any moment. Terra wants us to know that it won't start a war, Elena reported. But it will finish one if the aliens attack. In space, Commander Draktos struggled to understand what had happened to his fleet. His ship's systems came back online intermittently, just long enough for basic functions, then shut down again. It was as if the planet below was demonstrating its power by playing with their technology. Status report, he ordered, his scales showing the deep purple of extreme stress. All weapon systems remain offline, his tactical officer reported. Life support is functioning, but we have no propulsion, no shields, and no communications with Council headquarters. Sir, whatever this planet is doing, it's selectively targeting our military capabilities while leaving us alive. Draktos understood the message. The Earth consciousness could have destroyed them all in the first moments of contact. Instead, it was showing mercy while demonstrating overwhelming superiority. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's not from the humans this time. The main screen activated, showing a visualization of the voice coming from Earth's core. The patterns were complex beyond anything their computers could fully process. But the translation was clear. Ships of the Galactic Council, I am Terra. I bear you no hostility, but I will not allow you to harm the species under my protection. Your weapons are disabled, but your lives are safe. I propose dialogue instead of destruction. Draktos found his voice. We hear you, planetary consciousness. The Council's decision-makers are not present. We are only scouts and enforcers. Then you will take a message to your leaders. Earth claims independence from Council authority. We request recognition as a sovereign system with the right to develop without interference. Before Draktos could respond, alarms began sounding throughout his ship. New readings appeared on every scanner, massive energy signatures approaching from deep space. The Council's ultimate response was arriving. The architect's personal fleet emerged from hyperspace like avenging gods. These were ships built by the galaxy's oldest civilization, armed with weapons that could crack moons and boil away atmospheres. At their head was the Eternal Judgment, a vessel the size of a small city that carried enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems. Zethkalar himself commanded the flagship. His ancient consciousness merged with the ship's quantum computers. For 50,000 years, the architects had maintained peace in the galaxy through overwhelming technological superiority. No world, no matter how advanced, could stand against their power. Planetary consciousness. Zethkalar's voice reached Earth through quantum communications that bypassed normal space. You have impressed us with your abilities, but you cannot match the accumulated might of galactic civilization. Surrender now, and your species will be relocated to a suitable world before this one is cleansed. Terra's response came not in words, but in action. Every person on Earth felt it. A subtle shift in gravity that made everyone slightly lighter for a moment. In space, the effect was more dramatic. Terra reached out with gravitational fields that stretched across millions of miles, gently adjusting the orbits of every moon and asteroid in the solar system. Mars moved closer to the Sun. Jupiter's largest moons rearranged themselves into a perfect spiral pattern. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter organized itself into geometric formations that spelled out mathematical theorems visible to any telescope. And then, with casual precision that stunned every observer, Terra moved all the objects back to their original positions. The entire demonstration took less than 10 minutes. I have shown you precision, Terra announced to the architect fleet. Now let me show you power. The star itself began to pulse. Sol Earth's sun started beating like a giant heart. The fusion reactions at its core synchronized with Terra's will, sending waves of energy throughout the solar system. The star's output increased dramatically, then returned to normal, then increased again in perfect rhythm. On the architect flagship, instruments that had never shown impossible readings before began screaming warnings. Zethkalar, ancient beyond measure, experienced something he had not felt in millennia: fear. How? He whispered. How can a world mind control stellar mechanics? Terra's answer came with terrifying simplicity. Because I am not just a conscious planet. I am a conscious planet bonded with a species that questions everything, that refuses to accept limitations, that finds solutions where none should exist. Human creativity merged with planetary power creates possibilities your ancient minds cannot comprehend. To prove the point, Terra demonstrated one final ability. It reached out across space and touched the architect flagship with invisible force, not to destroy it but to share information. In an instant, Zethkalar experienced something that shattered his understanding of reality. He felt what Terra felt, the connection to every human mind on Earth. Billions of individual consciousnesses, each one unique, each one contributing to the gestalt that was human civilization. Scientists dreaming of new discoveries, artists creating beauty from nothing, children asking questions that redefined entire fields of knowledge. Terra was not just a planetary mind. It was a planetary mind enhanced by the collective creativity and stubbornness of the human species. The combination created something genuinely new in galactic history. Impossible, Zethkalar breathed. No species has ever achieved true symbiosis with a world mind. Humans are not like other species, Terra replied. They adapt. They overcome. They refuse to surrender even when logic says they should. And now they are under my protection. The architect fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons useless, their ancient authority challenged for the first time in galactic memory. Below them, a small blue world spun peacefully in space, defended by an intelligence that had just redefined the balance of power in the galaxy. The confrontation was over, but the consequences were just beginning. 6 months after first contact, the Galactic Council chambers looked very different. The circular arrangement of seats had been expanded to include a new delegation, humans sitting alongside representatives from worlds that had sided with Earth during the crisis. At the center of the human delegation sat Dr. Elena Vasquez, wearing a specially designed headset that allowed Terra to participate directly in the proceedings. Ambassador Zixthara called the session to order, her blue skin showing signs of the stress that had marked the past half-year. We convene today to finalize the Sol Accords, the first treaty between the Galactic Council and a world mind-bonded civilization. The negotiations had been unlike anything in galactic history. Terra's demonstration of power had convinced even the most stubborn council members that force was not an option. But the architects and their allies had not given up easily. They had spent months trying to find legal loopholes, ancient laws, or technical restrictions that could be used against Earth. They had found none. Terra's mastery of gravitational forces meant that any aggressive action would result in the destruction of the attacking fleets. More importantly, 12 other council member civilizations had declared their support for Earth's independence, creating the largest political coalition seen in thousands of years. The primary terms are as follows, Zixthera continued, reading from the quantum-encrypted treaty document. Earth and its solar system are recognized as a sovereign territory under Terra's protection. Humanity is granted full citizenship status in the galactic community, with all associated rights and protections. Gordak rumbled his displeasure from his stone seat. This sets a dangerous precedent. What happens when other primitive worlds discover conscious planetary cores? Elena activated her communication link with Terra and spoke the planet's words. Terra believes that consciousness should be celebrated, not feared. The galaxy has grown stagnant under current leadership. New perspectives and fresh thinking are exactly what galactic civilization needs. The statement caused another round of angry clicks and rumbles from the conservative faction, but their protests carried less weight now. In the months since the confrontation, 17 council worlds had experienced their own geological awakenings. It turned out that planetary consciousness was far more common than anyone had realized. It had simply been suppressed by fear of council retaliation. Zethkalar spoke from his position among the architects. The ancient being had changed since his mental contact with Terra. Where once he had seemed coldly logical, now there was something warmer in his presence. The bonding between the human species and their world mind has created capabilities we are still studying. Their technological advancement in the past 6 months has been remarkable. This was an understatement. Working together, human scientists and Terra's vast intelligence had made breakthrough after breakthrough. Clean fusion power, gravity manipulation, quantum communication arrays, and dozens of other innovations had transformed Earth's civilization almost overnight. But more importantly, the partnership had produced something else: hope. Other worlds that had lived under council authority for millennia were beginning to question the old ways. Trade agreements with Earth were bringing new technologies and ideas to civilizations that had been stagnant for centuries. Dr. Sarah Chen, representing Earth's scientific community, stood to address the council. We offer to share our discoveries freely with any world that desires them. Terra's consciousness allows us to understand planetary systems in ways we never could before. We can help other worlds achieve harmony between their civilizations and their environments. And what do you want in return? Asked Thys, the energy being who had been one of Earth's first supporters. Freedom to explore and grow, Elena replied, channeling Terra's thoughts. Freedom for humanity to reach the stars and establish colonies, and freedom for other species to visit Earth and learn from our partnership with Terra. The vote, when it finally came, was closer than many had expected. The conservative worlds, led by Gordak's Mineral Confederacy, voted against the accords, but the reformist coalition, strengthened by worlds that had awakened their own planetary consciousness, carried the day. The Sol Accords are hereby ratified, Zixthara announced. Earth is recognized as a sovereign member of the galactic community. The celebration on Earth was unlike anything in human history. Every major city erupted in spontaneous festivals as the news spread. But the real celebration was quieter, deeper. Through her connection with Terra, Elena could feel the planet's joy, not just at the political victory, but at the opportunities that lay ahead. What happens now? Elena asked Terra during a quiet moment after the vote. Now we build, Terra replied. The galaxy has been ruled by fear for too long. Fear of change, fear of new ideas, fear of anything that challenges the established order. But humans don't fear the unknown. You embrace it. In the weeks that followed, Earth became a hub of galactic activity. Alien visitors arrived daily, eager to study the human-Terra partnership. Many were scientists and philosophers, but others were refugees from authoritarian worlds, seeking the freedom that Earth now represented. Dr. James Park established the first interplanetary communication network, linking Terra with the newly awakened planetary consciousness of 12 other worlds. These world minds shared information about everything from atmospheric management to stellar mechanics, creating a knowledge base that surpassed anything the Galactic Council had ever assembled. Meanwhile, human exploration teams began visiting other star systems, not as conquerors or colonizers but as partners and learners. Terra's gravitational mastery allowed for faster-than-light travel that didn't rely on the Council's restricted hyperspace routes. The first human colony was established on Kepler 442b, a world whose awakening consciousness had been inspired by Terra's example. The partnership between human colonists and their new planetary partner created a society that amazed galactic observers with its harmony and innovation. But perhaps the most significant change was happening within the Galactic Council itself. The old guard, led by species like Gordak's Confederation, found their influence waning as more worlds embraced the new paradigm of cooperation rather than domination. "The galaxy is changing," Zethkalar observed during a private meeting with Elena. "Your species has introduced concepts we had forgotten: curiosity, adaptability, the willingness to question established truths. Some of us see this as dangerous chaos. Others see it as long overdue renewal." Elena smiled. "Terra says that change is the only constant in the universe. Trying to stop it is like trying to stop a planet from spinning." 1 year after first contact, Elena stood in Terra's new communication chamber, a crystalline structure built deep in the Earth's crust where the connection between human technology and planetary consciousness was strongest. Around her, holographic displays showed the status of human colonies on 17 different worlds, each one thriving under the protection of their local planetary consciousness. "Any regrets?" she asked Terra. "Only that we waited so long to speak," Terra replied. "But perhaps the timing was right. Humanity needed to be ready for partnership, not domination, and the galaxy needed to be ready for change." Through the chamber's viewing portal, Elena could see construction beginning on humanity's most ambitious project yet, a space station that would serve as a mobile embassy, allowing Terra's consciousness to travel to other star systems and help awaken more planetary minds. The Galactic Council had tried to maintain order through fear and force for 50,000 years. But humanity and Terra had shown a different path, one based on cooperation, growth, and the unshakable belief that any challenge could be overcome through intelligence, determination, and partnership. As Elena watched human and alien engineers working together on the station's quantum consciousness matrix, she realized that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of sleeping worlds and stagnant civilizations that had forgotten how to dream of better futures. But humanity had never forgotten how to dream. And now, with Terra as their partner and the stars as their destination, those dreams were becoming reality. The age of fear was ending. The age of possibility had begun. In the depths of space, other ancient things stirred. Consciousnesses older than the Galactic Council, watching and waiting to see what this partnership between world and species might accomplish. Some were curious. Others were concerned. But all of them recognized that the galaxy would never be the same again. Terra felt their attention and was not afraid. After all, it was bonded with humanity, a species that had looked at an impossible situation and said, "Let's see what we can do about that." The greatest adventures were still to come.